Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Dave, and today I would like to show you what I think is the best MacBook ever made. And this is the 14-inch M1 MacBook Pro from 2021. But why is it so good even today, 5 years after release? Well, stay tuned to find out, but honestly, even in 2026, this thing embarrasses most new laptops. Well, first up, it's the Apple Silicon. Apple had already launched the M1 MacBook Pro 1 year prior. But when this thing came out, it was a revolution. It had the much faster M1 Pro and M1 Max chips, and even more importantly, it completely overhauled the design and the fundamentals of the M1 MacBook Pro, which was still using the 2016 design that started to look a bit outdated. Let me just show you. I have a 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro here, but the M1 MacBook Pro was practically identical physically to this one. So let's just pretend this is an M1 MacBook Pro, right? And let's compare these side by side. So if you take a look at the port selection, as you can see, the old one only had a headphone jack, while the new one brought back HDMI and even the SD card slot. And more importantly, it brought back MagSafe. And honestly, I love that. But let's go back to the M1 Pro. And seriously, everyone was complaining about the missing ports that were removed with the 2016 model, and now we finally have everything back. And what's cool is that Apple actually listened and they made the MacBook Pro thicker in order to squeeze in a bigger battery and better cooling. Although given that this runs the M1 Pro, cooling wasn't really an issue like, back in the Intel days. But more importantly, Apple listened to their Pro customers and gave them exactly what they wanted. A solid keyboard, fantastic performance, amazing battery life, better speakers, more ports, and a much better display. And oh my god, that display. Seriously, this display is the centerpiece of this MacBook, and it looks stunning even 5 years later. It's a Super Retina XDR display, as Apple calls it, but technically this is a mini LED display with over 2500 local dimming zones. Brightness got bumped up from 500 nits on the previous generation MacBook to 16,000 nits of peak brightness, and that's just insane. The resolution is 3024 by 1964, which is very high for a 14-inch screen. And you can't really see individual pixels even if you wanted to. And to top it all off, guess what Apple did? They added 120Hz ProMotion. Like, words can't even express how big of an upgrade this display was over the previous generation. And yes, while the starting price was a bit steep at $2,000, which would get you the base model 14-inch M1 Pro with 16GB of RAM and 512 gigs of storage, and that's the exact model that I have right here, guess what? Almost 5 years later, this MacBook is still a beast, and whoever spent $2,000 back in 2021 on this machine, trust me, they're still very happy with their investment today. And I know that because I'm happy with my investment. This machine was probably the best MacBook that I've ever purchased, hands down. And this MacBook aged so well, in fact, that if you put it next to the latest and greatest M5 MacBook Pro in the same color, you will not be able to find a single physical difference. They're identical. Of course, the newest M5 chip is faster and snappier than the M1 Pro, but that doesn't mean that the M1 Pro became slow all of a sudden. No, far from it. This is still an incredibly fast chip, and Intel has just barely started closing the gap in 2026. But even so, they're still quite far off. So moving away from Intel, honestly, might have been the best decision that Apple has ever made. The speakers are also fantastic. Like, seriously, they're some of the best speakers that I've ever heard in any laptop ever. Let me just play a quick sample. And yeah, you can even hear the bass. It's so good. And honestly, for most people, these speakers are so good that they could easily replace a dedicated Bluetooth speaker like this JBL one. If I put these two side by side, there's almost no difference, and that's huge for a laptop. Now, the only slight downside that I've started recently noticing with this MacBook is the battery, because it's not as amazing as, the other M series chips or MacBooks. That's because the base model that I have right here only has 2 efficiency cores, and in real world, that translates to about 8 to 9 hours of moderate use of battery life. For me, it's about 8 hours of script writing or, browsing the web, replying to emails, managing my channel. But if I start editing on this, the battery will go down in like 4 hours, and yeah, it's not that great. Editor's note here, I'm just editing the video on this exact MacBook. I'm about halfway done at like the 4-minute mark, and the battery has already dropped down to 59%, and it was at like 80 something percent when I started. So yeah, after 30 minutes of editing, it already dropped 20 something percent. So yeah, it's not fantastic during heavy use, but yeah, for casual use, it's completely fine. But now, back to the video. And while this is not class-leading anymore, it's still quite good considering that this is a 5-year-old laptop with a 90% battery health. Let me just quickly check actually. So if we go into more info, system report, power, yes. So after 5 years, it's at 154 battery cycles and 90% battery health. And yes, while I did use this plugged in some of the time, I also used it quite a lot while traveling, so on battery. And 90% battery health after 5 years, it's honestly very good. Like, seriously, I'm impressed. Yes, I also have a 15-inch M4 MacBook Air, and honestly, that lasts almost twice as much as this. Under normal use, that lasts like 16 to 18 hours. So yeah, but again, that's a newer machine, newer battery, a more efficient chip. It's fine, I guess. So what about performance? Well, it's still rock solid today. It flies through tasks without even breaking a sweat. And yes, while it's not as snappy as my M4 MacBook Pro, the 120Hz display makes up for it, and it actually makes it feel snappier. You have to see this in person to understand. And yes, it did get a tiny bit slower and battery life took another hit after updating this to macOS Tahoe. But it's still great and honestly, I have zero complaints. But the big question is, should you pick one of these up today? And yes, definitely you should. Don't even think about it. If you're out on the market, you're looking for a MacBook and your budget is like $700 to $800, don't even look at anything else, buy this. You can find them refurbished on Amazon for like $700, and that's just insane value. And if you want to check current prices, I'll leave a link in the description in the comment section down below, but usually it's around $700 to $800. And for that money, this thing is a killer value. I would much rather pick this actually over an M4 MacBook Air, which is around $800 new, so in a very similar price bracket. But why? Well, simply because the screen is so much nicer on the MacBook Pro, and yeah, even though the battery is a bit weaker, this is a better machine overall. And when we compare this to a $700 to $800 Windows laptop from 2026, well, simply put, there's no comparison. I would pick this MacBook every single time over a 5-year newer $700 Windows machine. No questions asked. But either way, have you ever used one of these MacBooks yourself? And if you have, please let me know down in a comment below. And if you're still using it today, let me know how you like it. Let me know how the battery life is, especially after updating to macOS Tahoe. And of course, if there's anything that I haven't covered in this video, leave a comment down below. I tend to reply to all of them. So yeah, I'll see you down there, and as always, this was Dave. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please consider subscribing and dropping a like, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Dave on Tech, signing out.